bloodied battlefields, shattered tribes, and a Roman historian's astonishing charge. Pliny the Elder condemned Julius Caesar's Gallic conquests as iniuria humani generis, crimes against humanity. In what may be the earliest recorded indictment of near genocidal warfare, Caesar's celebrated triumphs stood arraigned by one of Rome's own for their staggering toll. By modern estimates, over 1 million Gauls perished between 58 and 51 BCE, with hundreds of thousands more sold into slavery, out of a population of roughly 5 to 10 million. How did Caesar, hailed in Rome as a brilliant commander and newly appointed proconsul, wage a campaign so brutal that even his compatriots recoiled? Some, including Marcus Porcius Cato the Younger, allegedly sought to prosecute him for the slaughter in Gaul. Yet Caesar's version, preserved in his Commentari de Bello Gallico, frames each engagement as a defense of Roman interests, written in the third person to showcase both discipline and necessity. This tension between Caesar's careful self-portrayal and Pliny's stark moral condemnation offers an unsettling glimpse into the nature of Roman power. To unravel this conflict, we step back to the war's origins and the crisis that first drew Caesar deep into the heart of Gaul.
Did you know that most people who watch our documentaries aren't subscribed yet? If you enjoy animated maps and history, join our community. Leave a like and subscribe so you never miss the next episodes.
By the late 50s BCE, Rome was riven by internal strife. Elite factions vied for dominance in the Senate, while social pressures festered among the populace. In this tense atmosphere, Gaius Julius Caesar, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, Pompey, and Marcus Licinius Crassus forged the first triumvirate around 60 BCE, an unofficial pact that allowed each man to strengthen his position and outmaneuver political rivals. Caesar, having served as consul in 59 BCE and holding the crucial office of Pontifex Maximus since 63 BCE, gained a proconsul command over Cisalpine Gaul, Transalpine Gaul, and later Illyricum. His role as Pontifex Maximus bolstered his moral and religious standing in Rome, adding weight to every political move. Initially set for 5 years, Caesar's governmentship was extended by legislation, enabling him to expand Roman territory and send spoils and prestige back to Rome. Pompey, lauded for his eastern conquests, formally controlled Hispania, but managed affairs largely from the capital. He yearned for recognition of his veterans and his eastern treaties, leveraging the triumvirate's backing in the Senate. Crassus, deemed Rome's wealthiest citizen, sought lucrative campaigns in Syria, aiming for both military glory and legal reforms, favoring his vast business network. By the mid-1st century BCE, the Romans referred to Cisalpine Gaul as Gallia Togata, toga-wearing Gaul. Thanks to decades of contact and gradual incorporation, the region north of the Italian peninsula had adopted many Roman customs. Its inhabitants spoke Latin widely, wore Roman-style clothing, and even held partial rights akin to Roman citizens. In contrast, Gallia Comata, long-haired Gaul, extended from the Rhone to the Atlantic, and from the Pyrenees up to the Rhine. Despite Rome's growing ambitions, no direct Roman authority existed there. Local tribes governed themselves, each with distinct leadership and shifting alliances. Among these tribes were the Aedui, Helvetii, Arverni, and Belgae, led by councils or influential chieftains. Celtic religion, central to their identity, was frequently guided by druids, figures believed to interpret divine will and maintain sacred groves. In some rituals, human sacrifice played a role, though practices varied by region. Culturally, people in Gallia Comata wore braccae, trousers, favored bold woolen fabrics, and kept the long hair that gave the region its Roman epithet. While Roman merchants and diplomats occasionally ventured into Gallia Comata, it remained an autonomous world, culturally vibrant, politically fragmented, and outside the sphere of Gallia Togata, where Rome's influence was firmly established. In 58 BCE, a movement of staggering scale disrupted the heart of Gaul. The Helvetii, a Celtic tribe from what is now Switzerland, embarked on a mass migration westward in search of more fertile lands. According to Caesar's Commentari de Bello Gallico 1.5, they burned 12 of their oppida, fortified towns, and about 400 villages before departing, ensuring no possibility of return. Joined by associated groups, Talingi, Latobrigi, Rorici, and some Boii, their numbers are recorded as reaching 368,000 individuals, with 92,000 capable of bearing arms. This drastic act of self-destruction underscored the determination to find a new homeland and place them on an inevitable collision course with Rome's interests in the region. Among those alarmed by the Helveti's route were the Aedui, longtime allies of Rome. Their leading druid and statesman, Divi Shacus, appealed directly to Caesar, arguing that Helvetian movements threatened Aeduan territory. Newly established in his proconsulship, Caesar seized upon this plea. While he framed Rome's involvement as a defensive measure to protect an ally, he also recognized that defeating the Helvetii could yield swift military glory and enduring political capital. Before any major confrontation, Helvetian envoys sought safe passage through the Roman province. They vowed not to harm allied communities if allowed free transit. Caesar, however, delayed formal negotiations and quietly fortified strategic points along their path, signaling he had little intention of granting the request. Once the Aedui, under Divi Shacus, reiterated their call for protection, Caesar found both the casus belli and the moral pretext he needed to act decisively. The first notable clash occurred at the Arar River, modern Saône. As large contingents of the Helvetii were midway across with families and supplies, Caesar's legions launched a sudden ambush. Although this engagement was smaller than the battles that would follow, it carried potent symbolism. Rome's strict discipline and tactical prowess caught the Helvetii in a vulnerable moment. Caesar himself lauded this rapid success as proof of Roman superiority, noting thousands of Helvetian casualties. Despite the loss, the Helvetii refused to abandon their quest, regrouping and continuing their westward march. Meanwhile, Caesar, emboldened by the Arar victory, advanced with growing confidence. What began as cautious negotiations had escalated into open conflict, foreshadowing the far costlier struggles soon to engulf much of Gaul. The ambush at the Arar was but the first link in a chain of confrontations, its sudden violence hinting at the brutal consequences Roman legions would soon deliver, culminating in the decisive clash at Bibracte. By midsummer 58 BCE, tension with the Helvetii reached a breaking point near Bibracte, a major stronghold of the Aedui. The Romans labeled large fortified Celtic hill forts like this as oppida, while the Helvetii, carrying an estimated 80,000 or more, including families, sought to push on. Opposing them stood 6 Roman legions, around 30,000 men, under Caesar's command, determined to force a decisive engagement. Caesar's maneuvers had cut off the Helveti's supply lines, leaving them little choice but to stand and fight. On the chosen ground near Bibracte, both sides drew up a ferocious clash, likely contained to one day of intense combat, typical of ancient pitched battles. The Helvetii, hardened by their migration, stood resolute, yet the Romans' disciplined formations, combined with javelin volleys called pila, followed by close-quarters sword fighting, steadily wore them down. Contemporary accounts differ on exact figures, but ancient sources and modern estimates suggest thousands of Helvetii were killed or captured in this encounter alone. In the final moments, Roman resoluteness prevailed, leaving the Helvetii shattered and pushing the survivors into surrender or escape. As Caesar later wrote, they bravely resisted at first, forming a single mass, yet once burdened by the legionaries' onslaught and pelted by javelins from every side, they broke ranks and fled in great disorder. A vast number perished, and the road was strewn with bodies and abandoned wagons. That stark description encapsulates the intensity of Bibracte. The Helveti's defeat, among the earliest major clashes of Caesar's Gallic wars, demonstrated the sheer potency of Roman discipline and set the stage for further conquests, as Gaul would soon learn how swiftly and decisively Caesar's legions moved to secure victory. Following the clash at Bibracte, the Helvetii, their migration effectively shattered, were compelled by Caesar to return to their original territories and rebuild the towns and villages they had burned. This policy aimed to prevent the region from remaining a deserted wasteland, which could invite Germanic incursions. To ensure the displaced Helvetii did not starve or spark further unrest as they retraced their steps, Caesar commanded the Allobroges to supply them with abundant grain and other essentials. While the Aedui and other allied tribes also had responsibilities, such as maintaining security and providing certain resources, there is no direct evidence that Caesar ordered the Aedui to participate in the physical reconstruction of Helvetian settlements. This arrangement still showcased Caesar's tight control over local affairs. By directing both Helveti's actions and the support from allied peoples, he aimed to avert renewed conflict and reinforce Rome's authority throughout the region. For many tribes, the sight of the Helvetii trudging back to scorched homelands under Roman decree was sobering. Word of Rome's swift, decisive victory and Caesar's ability to impose terms on both friend and foe spread swiftly. While the Aedui remained nominally friends of Rome, led in diplomacy by Divi Shacus, some among them chafed at demands that cost grain and effort. Beneath the surface, doubts brewed over how deep Caesar's influence would run. Meanwhile, Caesar broadened his administrative measures across central Gaul. His legions built roads, secured winter quarters, and enforced tribute collection, offering stability but also signaling Rome's grip tightening. Tribes once relieved at Helvetian defeat grew wary that the price of Roman protection was submission to a growing empire. With the Helvetii neutralized and the Aedui bound to Rome's will, Caesar had secured the central battleground of Gaul. Yet behind every Roman road and winter camp stood rising doubts among the tribes, uncertainty that would soon brew into larger conflict. By 57 BCE, murmurs of resistance in the north signaled Caesar's next challenge, the Belgic War. If you found this exploration of Caesar's early Gallic campaigns insightful, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us bring the ancient world to life, and there's much more to uncover in Rome's unfolding drama.